Picture this. It's Christmas season, 1974. A bustling shopping mall, vibrant with holiday cheer, packed with last-minute shoppers. The air hums with excitement, the promise of joy. For three teenage girls, Rachel Trlica, Lisa Renee Wilson, and Julie Ann Moseley, it was just another ordinary outing to the Seminary South Shopping Center in Fort Worth, Texas. They were searching for gifts, probably laughing, planning their festive breaks. But then, in the blink of an eye, the ordinary shattered. They vanished. Not from a dark alley, not from an isolated road, but from the heart of a vibrant, public place. One moment they were there, full of life, full of future. The next, a void. A chilling, inexplicable disappearance that would forever haunt a city and shatter families. The holiday lights seemed to mock the growing darkness in Fort Worth as parents faced an unimaginable nightmare. Their daughters gone, leaving behind only perplexing notes, cryptic phone calls, and an ocean of unanswered questions that have drowned hope for half a century. Every December since, the shadow of that day falls heavy, a stark reminder of innocence lost and truth elusive. How could three young lives simply evaporate without a trace? The Fort Worth trio case isn't just a cold case, it's a gaping wound in the heart of America, a testament to the enduring power of mystery and the relentless agony of not knowing. Welcome to Crime Vault USA. Here, we don't just recount facts. We delve deep into the human stories, the lingering pain, and the relentless pursuit of answers behind America's most baffling, unsolved mysteries. Tonight, we open the vault on the Vanishing at Seminary South. Prepare to question everything. Fort Worth, Texas. December 23, 1974. The crisp winter air hummed with Christmas spirit. Shoppers bustled, storefronts glittered, pine scent drifted. For most, joy and anticipation. But for three families, this ordinary pre-Christmas day would rip a hole in their lives, twisting holiday cheer into an enduring, agonizing nightmare. It happened at Seminary South Shopping Center, a bustling beacon of commerce. Here, three young girls, full of life and innocent excitement, were last seen. Rachel Trlica, 17, the responsible eldest. Her 14-year-old sister, Lisa Renee Wilson, lively and spirited. And then 9-year-old Julie Ann Moseley, a bright-eyed friend, eager for pre-Christmas magic. Their plan was mundane, a final shopping trip for last-minute school gift exchange presents. Rachel had permission to drive her grandmother's green 1972 Oldsmobile 98 to the mall. Instruction: be back by 6 p.m. It was a day like any other, wrapped in holiday warmth. A day starting with laughter, ending with hot cocoa. A day so ordinary, its descent into horror would be all the more jarring. They arrived at Seminary South around 12:30 p.m. The mall was a hive of activity. Inside, the girls began their mission. Witnesses recalled them browsing aisles, faces lit by festive displays. They were spotted at various stores, department, jewelry, perhaps a record store, absorbed in delightful chaos. Rachel left the Oldsmobile in the parking lot. Nothing seemed out of the ordinary. No suspicious figures or commotions. Just three typical girls navigating a typical day. But as the afternoon wore on, a subtle shift began. 6 o'clock came and went, then 7, then 8. The Trlica and Wilson households, once humming with festive anticipation, quieted, then filled with growing, icy dread. Phone calls to mall security yielded no answers.
Calls to friends, to family, met chilling silence. Where were they? Why hadn't they called? Minutes stretched. Shadows held ominous secrets. Christmas lights, once sparkling, now mocked the growing darkness within their homes. What could have happened? Good girls, responsible. They wouldn't just run away, especially not before Christmas. The mall, usually a symbol of safety, suddenly felt like a gaping maw that had swallowed them whole. The last confirmed sighting placed them there, amidst shoppers, around 4:30 p.m. Then, nothing. Just an empty parking spot and 3 empty chairs at dinner tables, endlessly awaiting their return. The frantic search began, a desperate scramble under night's shroud. Parents, relatives, authorities descended upon Seminary South, combing every corner and shadow. But the mall, vibrant hours before, now desolate, held its secrets close. The ordinary Christmas Eve, intended for cherished family time, transformed into a cold, terrifying void. A void stretching into days, weeks, years, leaving a legacy of unanswered questions, profound grief. What happened to Rachel, Lisa, and Julie? How could 3 girls, in broad daylight, vanish without a trace from a crowded public place? The answers, nearly 50 decades later, remain elusive, haunting Fort Worth and loved ones. This was more than a disappearance. It was the shattering of innocence, a wound that never healed, reminding us that sometimes ordinary days hide extraordinary, terrifying secrets.
The hum of a shopping mall, the laughter of teenagers, the promise of a Friday night. For 3 young women in Fort Worth, Texas, December 23, 1974, held all the innocent excitement of the season. They stepped into the bustling Seminary South shopping center, brimming with holiday cheer, a final whirlwind of gift buying before Christmas Eve. But as the hours melted away, that festive anticipation curdled into something far darker, something that would forever scar a city and haunt a nation. Welcome, truth seekers, to a journey into the heart of an enduring mystery. Today we peel back the layers of a cold case that refuses to be forgotten, the vanishing of the Fort Worth trio. And in this segment, we'll plunge into the terrifying initial shock that ripped through Fort Worth, a descent from joyous expectation to an unimaginable nightmare. The last confirmed sighting of Rachel Trlica, Julie Ann Moseley, and Renee Wilson was at 4:30 p.m. They were seen loading Christmas presents into Rachel's Oldsmobile Cutlass in the mall parking lot. A mundane act replicated by thousands that day. But Rachel had promised to be home by 6 p.m. As the minute hand crawled past that mark, then past 7, then 8, a quiet unease began to settle over the Trlica household. Betty, Rachel's mother, tried to quell the flutter of worry in her stomach. Teenage girls, right? Always running a little late, caught up in the holiday rush. But 9 p.m. came, then 10. The phone, usually a lifeline of adolescent chatter, remained eerily silent. Betty started making calls. First to the Moseley and Wilson homes. No, Julie and Renee hadn't arrived either. A knot tightened in Betty's chest. This wasn't typical teenage tardiness. This was wrong. This was a silence that screamed louder than any noise. The Christmas presents, still unwrapped, lay under the tree, a chilling testament to a celebration that might never happen. The air in the Trlica home grew thick with unspoken fear. Every creak of the house, every distant siren, amplified the terror. Where were they? Why hadn't they called? Was it an accident? 1,000 dreadful scenarios flickered through Betty's mind, each more terrifying than the last. The warmth of the holiday season evaporated, replaced by an icy dread that seeped into every corner of their lives. By 11 p.m., the families could no longer wait. Rachel's father, Cecil Trlica, along with Julie's brother, Rusty Arnold, and Renee's brother, Joe Wilson, piled into cars. They scoured the familiar routes, the drive-in restaurants, the arcades, the houses of friends. They drove with the desperate hope, their headlights cutting through the growing fog of the Texas night, illuminating empty streets and deserted parking lots. Each passing minute, each unanswered knock, each dead end only deepened the chasm of their fear. The city, usually vibrant with pre-Christmas energy, felt suddenly vast and indifferent.
Around midnight, the desperate parents made the call to the Fort Worth Police Department. Initial reports, however, were met with a familiar, weary response. "It's too soon. They're probably just out with friends." The standard 24-hour waiting period for missing persons reports was cited. But for these families, every second felt like an eternity. Their pleas, laced with a raw urgency that only parents facing the unimaginable could convey, eventually spurred a limited response. Officers were dispatched, not with the full might of an investigation, but with the routine search protocol for runaways. Then came the discovery that solidified their worst fears and plunged the entire city into a chilling nightmare. In the sprawling, half-empty parking lot of the Seminary South Shopping Center, amidst a sea of forgotten cars, sat Rachel Trlica's Oldsmobile Cutlass. It was precisely where she had parked it hours earlier, unlocked, untouched, the doors slightly ajar as if someone had just stepped away for a moment. But there was no one. The girls were gone. And more unnervingly, inside was Rachel's purse, left on the console, with her wallet and the Christmas gifts still in the back seat. This wasn't a joyride. This wasn't a runaway situation. This was something far more sinister. The sight of that abandoned car, with the ordinary items of a teenage girl's life left carelessly behind, sent a jolt of pure terror through the families, and soon through the entire community. News of the disappearance spread like wildfire through Fort Worth. The pre-Christmas buzz evaporated, replaced by an uneasy silence. Parents hugged their children tighter. Neighbors looked at each other with newly suspicious eyes. The festive lights of the city seemed to dim, casting long, unsettling shadows. The thought that 3 girls could simply vanish without a trace from a busy mall in broad daylight was an affront to the collective sense of safety. The raw emotion gripping the Trlica, Moseley, and Wilson families was palpable. The initial confusion had given way to a crushing weight of despair. Every waking moment was a spiral of what-ifs and if-onlys. The chilling sense of dread wasn't confined to their homes. It was a contagion spreading through every street, every household in Fort Worth. A city that had been bustling with holiday cheer now held its breath, cloaked in a new, profound fear. The joy of Christmas was stolen, replaced by a haunting silence and an unyielding question. Where were the Fort Worth trio? And would they ever come home?
Imagine a life paused, a home frozen in the precise moment 3 vibrant young women simply vanished into thin air. This was the horrifying reality that dawned on Fort Worth, Texas on December 23, 1974. The immediate aftermath of the girls' disappearance was a scene of escalating panic. When store manager Drayton McClellan discovered the empty house, the unanswered calls, the keys still in the ignition of Mary Rachel's car parked outside, a cold dread settled over him. The phone call to police was terse, but the unspoken terror hung heavy in the air. This wasn't just a missing persons report. It felt different. It felt sinister. Law enforcement descended upon the McClellan residence with a swift, almost frantic urgency. Every inch of the house was meticulously combed.
Detectives, their faces grim, searched for any sign of forced entry, any struggle, anything to explain the impossible void where 3 lives had been just hours before. But the silence of the house offered no answers. No broken windows, no ransacked rooms, no overturned furniture. It was as if the girls had simply ceased to exist. This eerie absence of evidence was in itself the first chilling clue. It suggested either an inside job or an abduction so swift, so seamless, it defied logic. As hours bled into days, the initial shock gave way to a relentless, grinding frustration. The Fort Worth Police Department, bolstered by state and federal resources, found themselves drowning in a sea of information and misinformation. The phone lines lit up with thousands of tips, each one a desperate thread of hope for the grieving families, and each one demanding precious investigative time. From psychics claiming visions to petty criminals offering dubious confessions for a reward, the vast majority were dead ends, cruel hoaxes, or simply misguided attempts to help. Each false lead was a punch to the gut for the McClellans and Arnolds, a flicker of light extinguished, leaving them in deeper darkness. Amidst the chaos, various theories began to circulate, each one weighed and debated by exhausted investigators and a terrified public. Initially, the idea of the girls running away was floated, a standard procedure for missing teenagers. But anyone who knew Rachel, Renee, or Julie quickly dismissed this notion as absurd. These were not rebellious runaways. They were responsible, close-knit, and deeply connected to their families. The thought was quickly abandoned, replaced by a far terrifying conclusion: abduction. The chilling possibility of foul play, of a forced disappearance, began to loom large. Was this a random act of violence? Were they targeted? The lack of any apparent motive or identifiable suspect only deepened the terror. The unknown predator was perhaps the most frightening theory of all. The city held its breath, wondering who could be next. In the frantic days that followed, the search efforts were monumental, a testament to the community's desperate hope. Hundreds of volunteers, organized by law enforcement, fanned out across the vast Texan landscape. They scoured desolate fields, combed through dense brush, and plunged into murky ponds. Helicopters buzzed overhead, their powerful searchlights cutting through the night, illuminating every crevice, every shadow. Dive teams meticulously explored the depths of local lakes, their hopes dimming with each passing hour. Reward money accumulated, yet no credible information emerged.
For the families, this period was an unimaginable purgatory. Every phone call sent their hearts racing. Every knock on the door brought a fresh wave of anxiety. Rachel's parents, Drayton and Yan, lived in a waking nightmare, their home transformed into a grim command center. Every morning brought a new wave of interviews, new questions from detectives, new pleas to the public. The Arnolds, equally devastated, clung to each other, praying for a miracle that refused to come. The agonizing silence from their daughters was deafening. The hope they held so desperately began to fray at the edges, slowly, painfully. As days stretched into weeks, then into agonizing months, the relentless pace of the initial search began to wane. The once hot trail, thin as it was, began to grow cold. The phone calls dwindled. The immediate media frenzy subsided, replaced by the occasional anniversary report. The investigators, despite their tireless dedication, found themselves with nowhere left to turn. Without a body, without a suspect, without concrete evidence, the Fort Worth trio case slowly, tragically slipped into the chilling realm of the unsolved. A shadow had fallen over Fort Worth, a permanent reminder of the day 3 young lives simply evaporated, leaving behind only questions, an enduring, heartbreaking mystery. Welcome back, fellow truth seekers, to a journey into the shadows of history's most baffling enigmas. We left the Fort Worth trio case shrouded in an impenetrable silence. 3 young lives vanished without a trace, leaving a gaping wound in the heart of a community. But as days bled into weeks, and weeks into agonizing months, the initial despair began to morph into a chilling new kind of torment. The torment of cryptic clues, false dawns, and whispers from a void that seemed determined to mock the desperate search for answers. It was during this period of gnawing uncertainty, when hope was a flickering candle against a storm, that an object emerged from the darkness, promising solace, but delivering only deeper confusion. An enigmatic letter. Weeks after the girls disappeared, a letter arrived at the home of Rachel Trlica's grandmother. It was addressed to Rachel's husband, Tommy. Imagine the jolt of electricity, the sudden surge of adrenaline, and a fragile, desperate hope. Could this be it? Could this be the breakthrough they had prayed for? But as Rachel's mother, Laverna, read the hurried scrawl, that fleeting hope curdled into a cold dread. The letter, purportedly from Rachel, claimed the girls were fine, that they had simply gone to Houston for a few days and would be back in about a week. It even mentioned they were having fun and couldn't make it home for work or Christmas. On the surface, it sounded almost reassuring, a typical teenage escapade.
Yet to Laverna, the words rang hollow, striking a discordant note that echoed through her very soul. While the handwriting bore a resemblance to Rachel's, certain phrases, the stilted language, the casual disregard for their family's anguish, it just didn't feel like her daughter. Rachel was responsible. She wouldn't just vanish without a word, especially not with Christmas approaching, not without a phone call, not without considering the devastation she would leave behind. The letter became a focal point of the investigation, scrutinized by handwriting experts. Some confirmed it was indeed Rachel's hand. Others were less certain, suggesting it could be a highly skilled forgery or perhaps even written under duress. The ambiguity was a cruel twist of the knife for the families. Was Rachel alive, sending a coded message? Or was this a macabre hoax, a tormentor playing a sadistic game? The very possibility of deception, of someone manipulating their deepest fears, was an agony almost as profound as the disappearance itself. The letter, rather than providing clarity, plunged the case into a new realm of uncertainty. It introduced a chilling narrative. Were the girls voluntarily gone, or were they being held against their will, forced to write a deceptive message? Law enforcement found themselves chasing shadows, sifting through hundreds of potential leads, each one born from the letter's vague assertions. Resources were stretched, hope was diluted, and the families were left clinging to the ghost of a message that offered no real solace. As the years dragged on, the baffling nature of the Fort Worth trio case only intensified. Beyond the enigmatic letter, other bizarre twists emerged, further muddling the waters. There were fleeting, unsubstantiated sightings of the girls, in distant cities, in strange cars, often described by unreliable witnesses or those simply seeking attention. Each tip, no matter how tenuous, sparked a brief, desperate surge of activity before fading into disappointment, leaving only a trail of dashed hopes. In their profound grief and desperation, some families turned to psychics, a common, if often fruitless, recourse in cold cases. These mediums offered cryptic visions, vague locations, and fragmented clues. A car in a field, a house near water, a man with a certain name. While offering a fleeting comfort to the tormented families, these interventions rarely led to concrete evidence, often adding layers of fantastical confusion to an already bewildering mystery. distracting from the painstaking, methodical work of real investigation. The enigmatic letter, the phantom sightings, the whispers from the fringes, these were not solutions, but further threads in a tapestry of confusion. They highlight the profound psychological toll on families trapped in a prolonged, ambiguous loss, forced to grapple with a truth that constantly shifted, a reality that offered no definitive answers. The void remained, not empty, but filled with the echoes of questions, the torment of possibilities, and the enduring, heartbreaking whispers of 3 young lives that simply vanished. The initial shockwave that ripped through Fort Worth in December of 1974 eventually subsided, but for the families of Rachel Trlica, Lisa Renee Wilson, and Carla McStay, the tremors never truly stopped. The immediate, deafening silence that followed their disappearance was replaced not by peace, but by a chronic, echoing ache.
Imagine a parent's worst nightmare, prolonged indefinitely. For Ray and Margie Trlica, for Tommy and Carolyn Wilson, for Carla's family, the grief was a cruel, evolving entity. It wasn't the sharp, defining cut of death, but the blunt, constant ache of the unknown. How do you mourn what is perpetually missing, not definitively gone? How do you heal when there is no grave to visit, no final farewell? Their daughter's rooms remained, frozen in time, clothes still in closets, books on shelves, a lingering scent of youth. Every birthday was a fresh wound, every Christmas an empty chair at the table. Holidays, once joyful, became stark reminders of absence, each passing year adding another layer to the already unbearable weight. Hope, a fragile and often cruel companion, battled constantly with despair. Was that a glimpse of Rachel in a crowd? Did Lisa call from a payphone? Could Carla be just around the corner, finally home? This perpetual state of limbo, this ambiguous loss, gnawed at their souls. It eroded their sense of normalcy, reshaped their identities. They were no longer just parents, they were parents of the missing. Their lives became an unending vigil, a relentless pursuit of any fragment of truth, any whisper that might lead them closer to their daughters. This wasn't merely a case file, it was their shattered existence. The city, too, bore the indelible mark. Fort Worth, once a place where children roamed freely, now lived under a cloud of quiet apprehension. The innocence had been stolen, not just from the girls, but from the entire community. Neighbors watched neighbors with new, wary eyes. Playgrounds felt a little less safe. A generation grew up with the Fort Worth trio as a chilling, cautionary tale, a constant whisper of vulnerability. Yet from this profound sorrow rose an equally profound resilience. The families, initially isolated in their individual agonies, found strength in unity. Support groups emerged, becoming lifelines for those navigating the uncharted waters of missing loved ones. They shared tips, exchanged theories, but most importantly, they shared the crushing burden of not knowing. These were not just meetings, they were acts of shared survival. Annual memorials became poignant rituals, not just for remembrance, but for renewed commitment. Each vigil, each flyer distributed, each media appeal was a defiant act against oblivion.
They refused to let Rachel, Lisa, and Carla become mere statistics, forgotten footnotes in a crime database. They were daughters, sisters, friends, vibrant young lives ripped away, and their memory would be fiercely guarded. The psychological toll extended far beyond the immediate families. Siblings grew up shadowed by absence, carrying the weight of a missing sister, wondering what their lives would have been like if tragedy hadn't struck. Friendships that once blossomed were fractured by shared trauma, some strengthened, others strained by the incomprehensible void. The very fabric of the community had been stretched and torn, leaving scars that decades could not erase. Why does this particular case continue to haunt Fort Worth? Because it remains utterly, devastatingly unresolved. There are no answers, no arrests, no closure. It is a wound that never heals because the foreign object, the truth, is still lodged within it. This absence of resolution creates a perpetual narrative loop in the minds of those affected, replaying possibilities, imagining scenarios, forever stuck at the precipice of understanding. The relentless advocacy of the families, even as years turned into decades, is a testament to the enduring power of love. They became accidental detectives, tireless activists, their voices growing hoarse from repeated pleas for information, for justice. Their unwavering commitment ensures that the case, though cold, never truly freezes over in the public consciousness. It is their unwavering hope, a flicker in the long night, that keeps the spotlight on this enduring mystery. The shadow cast by the Fort Worth trio's disappearance is long, stretching across generations. It's a silent, constant reminder of vulnerability, but also a powerful testament to the human spirit's capacity for unwavering love and resilience in the face of incomprehensible loss. The story of Rachel, Lisa, and Carla isn't just a cold case. It's a living scar on the heart of a community, a profound, aching question mark that continues to define lives decades later. The relentless march of time, decades fading into history. Yet for some, the wounds refuse to close. For the families of Mary Rachel Trlica, Lisa Renee Wilson, and Julie Ann Moseley, the Fort Worth trio, the passage of nearly half a century has not diminished the searing, daily pain of their absence. Their story, once a national headline that gripped a nation, now echoes from the archives, a stark, agonizing reminder of 3 young lives vanished without a trace. It is a mystery that continues to haunt the very fabric of Fort Worth, a city forever marked by their disappearance. The silence surrounding their fate is a constant, suffocating question mark etched deep into the hearts of those left behind. Every passing anniversary, every holiday, every family gathering is a fresh, excruciating testament to the profound, unfillable void left by 3 beloved daughters, sisters, and friends.
Their disappearance isn't just a cold case file gathering dust. It's a living, throbbing scar on a community that vividly remembers their youthful faces, once tragically etched onto milk cartons and faded posters, forever frozen in time. The psychological impact on their loved ones has been catastrophic, a relentless cycle of hope and despair stretching across generations. But the passage of time also brings new light, new understanding, and new tools. The landscape of cold case investigations has undergone a quiet yet profound revolution. No longer are such cases resigned solely to dusty boxes and forgotten police archives, only to be revisited on rare, mournful anniversaries. Today, dedicated cold case units, often comprised of seasoned detectives with an unyielding commitment to justice and an empathetic understanding of the victims' families, pore over every shred of evidence with renewed vigor. They meticulously examine every faded photograph, every interview transcript, every police report, often re-interviewing aging witnesses, treating each piece of information as if the disappearance happened yesterday. These are the tireless guardians of these forgotten narratives, relentless in their pursuit of even the faintest whisper of truth, driven by an almost sacred duty to the missing. The advent of forensic science has transformed the battlefield, offering an unprecedented glimmer of hope. What was once invisible now speaks volumes. DNA technology, once a nascent concept barely imagined in 1974, has become a powerful beacon, capable of extracting genetic fingerprints from the tiniest fleck of skin, a single strand of hair, or even microscopic fibers.
evidence that might have been overlooked, dismissed, or simply undetectable decades ago. Even samples long degraded by time or mishandling can now yield critical information, unlocking secrets held captive for generations. This scientific leap represents a profound shift, offering solace that the impossible might now be within reach. The burgeoning, meticulous field of investigative genetic genealogy has added another potent, almost miraculous weapon to their arsenal. By carefully uploading crime scene DNA to public databases, investigators can painstakingly construct vast, intricate family trees, tracing distant relatives and narrowing down suspect pools with previously unimaginable precision. It's a painstaking process, often involving hundreds of hours of dedicated genealogical research, cross-referencing public records and historical documents, but it offers a profound new pathway to answers, a chance to finally give names to the nameless and bring perpetrators out of the shadows of history. It's a testament to human ingenuity applied to the most heartbreaking of mysteries. Yet, for the Fort Worth trio, despite these extraordinary advancements and the unwavering efforts of relentless law enforcement, the answers remain tragically, stubbornly out of reach. The case persists as one of the most perplexing and haunting mysteries in Texas history, a stubborn void in the annals of American crime. Was it a random, opportunistic abduction?
Did they, by some cruel twist of fate, cross paths with someone known to them? Someone with dark and unspeakable intentions? The silence that envelops their fate is deafening, amplifying the questions that echo through the years, growing louder with each passing decade. The human cost of this unsolved enigma is quite simply immeasurable. Families have lived their entire adult lives suspended in a perpetual state of agonizing grief and crushing uncertainty. Parents have grown old, their hearts heavy with sorrow, many passing away never knowing what happened to their beloved daughters. Siblings have carried the immense weight of this loss, a constant, chilling shadow over their own lives, forever searching for a closure that cruelly eludes them. This case is a poignant, enduring reminder that a cold case is never merely a file gathering dust on a shelf. It is a profound human tragedy, an open, festering wound in the heart of a community. It represents the brutal, abrupt severing of vibrant futures, the crushing of innocent dreams, and the unanswered pleas of parents yearning desperately for their children. The enduring legacy of the Fort Worth trio compels us, even now, to remember, to speak their names aloud, to ensure they are never forgotten. Mary Rachel Trlica, Lisa Renee Wilson, and Julie Ann Moseley. Their story demands our sustained attention, not just as a historical footnote from a bygone era, but as a living testament to the fact that justice, though agonizingly delayed, should never, ever be denied. It is a powerful, urgent call to awareness, reminding us that every fragment of memory, every long-held suspicion, every seemingly insignificant piece of forgotten information from that fateful Christmas Eve of 1974 could be the vital missing thread. Someone out there, perhaps now elderly, perhaps burdened by decades of guilt, knows something. Someone carries a secret, a dark truth that could finally unlock this agonizingly decades-old puzzle. Perhaps, with each new technological leap, with each dedicated investigator who picks up their file with renewed determination, with each passing year that brings new eyes to old evidence, the truth will finally, mercifully emerge. The hope persists, resilient and unyielding, that one day soon the echoes of the past will finally reveal the full, heartbreaking story of the Fort Worth trio, allowing their grieving families to find some measure of peace and their spirits to finally rest. Their story,
Unsolved though it remains, stands as a powerful, enduring testament to the enduring resilience of hope and the unyielding, relentless pursuit of answers. Until then, their names remain whispered on the winds of Fort Worth, a perpetual, aching reminder of a mystery waiting, eternally waiting, to be solved.